Welcome to Men Let Me Reason, the podcast, a space dedicated to fostering open and honest conversations about the complex realities of fatherhood and ultimately manhood in today's world. We will be exploring the unspoken issues that we men face, shedding light on what society expects of us, our emotions, and our social interactions at all levels, especially within the family. This podcast isn't just about acknowledging issues, it's about us men being accountable, transparent, and finding solutions while building strong support systems. So men, let me reason. Welcome to another episode of Men Let Me Reason. This is the podcast where we discuss the unspoken realities of manhood. I am Fabian Sargent, and today we will be focusing on the power of a father and daughter relationship. With me to discuss this topic, we have Toney Olton, father of a few daughters. Five daughters. Sorry. And we have Adrian Green, also a father of a few daughters.
There's still life, there's hope.
Yes, it's true. And I guess, I really want to lay the foundation for the conversation. So, Toney, what does fatherhood mean to you?
First of all, coming to a realization that life is a continuum. And therefore, once I come to that understanding, how do I position myself so that the next generation goes forward better positioned than my generation, because I'm able to function better than the generation before me. So fatherhood is about contributing to the sustaining of humanity as best as you can in its optimum form.
Man, you got some pretty language in there. Yeah? Give it a little more simple.
How do I ensure that my offspring minimize the mistakes that I made as a young person and optimize the potential that they have?
Right. Okay. Good.
That's easier?
Yes, that is definitely easier. And I really want the men that tune in to pull from this wisdom and this knowledge, And again, I want to lay the foundation. There's a perception out there that men can't raise daughters. That's the reality. People think that. Adrian, what's your thoughts about that?
Men can't raise daughters?
Yes, there's this idea, especially when it comes to babies and bathing your daughters and these type of negative thoughts that some adults may have. And I really would like us to really at least go there, because as I said, we started at the beginning, childhood babies. You got fathers out there, young fathers who may know we get the girl child for the first time, who may even feel uncomfortable bathing and caring for that child in the way that he should. So that's the reason why I really want us to address that particular concern.
I think that's an unfortunate symptom of some issues that we have in society. The fact of the matter is, in Barbados and maybe even the region, we got a problem with the abuse of girls and the sexual abuse of girls, boys too, but for the most part, girls. And most of that abuse comes at the hands of men who are familiar to the family, fathers, brothers, uncles,
stepfathers,
family friends. So that concern is a real and valid concern. And I think it really is for each and every person in their household to know where they stand, know who is in that household, and set the standards for that house. But I can't sit here and pretend like that is not a real concern. For me, I'm father of two daughters, and I was a caregiver from very early with my daughters, very involved in the raising of my daughters in all aspects from very young. And they got to an age when there was an "All right, we got this," and I respect that 100%. And that was pretty early.
And that's phenomenal, I know fatherhood is a journey, and Toney, you know, you have 5 daughters.
Five beautiful daughters.
5 beautiful daughters.
Who I love dearly and they love me dearly. Yes.
So, I mean, give some insight to that journey, you know, from your very first daughter. I know men usually say, "My one boy child," you know, you hear that the girl, the lady's pregnant. Most men as a man, I go up as a boy. Yes.
No, I never got there. I never got to having a preference for one or the other.
Okay.
Yeah. So how would I characterize that journey? Up and down, up and down. The relationship that I enjoy today with my daughters didn't happen by chance. And would not have happened if I didn't come to a certain realization and made a certain decision about myself and about life when I was just about 40. By the time I was 39 going 40, I already had 3 daughters. By the time I was 40, I had my first daughter when I was 24 going 25. Yeah. Mother, right? So I have 2 daughters from my marriage. Those first 3, 2 daughters from my marriage and 1 outside of my marriage. And then the second marriage, then I have 2 daughters from that second marriage. To be honest, I think the mothers did most of the mothering, the mother looking after the daughters. I tended to be more of a provider. But as they got older and as I grew wiser, my ability to engage them, talk about life, try to understand where they were coming from, respond to their needs, not just their physical needs, but respond to their emotional needs, be able to have conversation, be able to discuss all kinds of issues. And as they matured, adjust my engagement with them to reflect my sense of their level of maturity, I think is what has allowed for the kind of relationship that I have with them today. I mean, my oldest daughter, there was a time when she wanted to push me away. She was 18, 19. She just started university. And I very clearly remember saying to her one day, just do me a favor. Just allow me to walk close enough behind you. So that if you fall, I can catch you. But man,
being that protective element.
Yeah, go free.
Yeah. You mentioned that I guess later on in life, as when you became
it had to do with my own maturity. It had to do with my own maturity.
I really want to find out what prevented that early initiation of that emotional connection. You know, you said your role was merely that of provider.
Taking care of them, making sure that they were, well, their physical needs were met, you know, dropping them off to school, picking them up from school, very involved in the PTA, that kind of thing. But the emotional engagement came later in life. And as I reflect, that had to do with my own growth and my own development. Yeah?
You know, there's a saying that a father is his daughter's first love. First love.
Yes.
First love. You ever take that into consideration? When you are fathering them, do you see yourself as that person that your daughters may aspire to be in a relationship with? Your characteristics as a man?
I don't think of it like that. You know, I've heard that before.
Right.
But I don't think of it like that at all. Like I said, I was very involved in day-to-day. My daughter's day-to-day lives from very early. So I'm very emotionally involved. So we've been having deep conversations, my daughters and I, from the time they could talk. And just like you, I've adjusted my interaction.
You have to adjust, yes.
To their maturity level.
Yes,
But they've seen me in various lights because of that conversation. And they've been challenging me intellectually from like 4 or 5 years old. And I encourage that because from my perspective, this world that we live in today is so obscure, so unpredictable, that they have to be able to see through things and think things out and think critically about everything, even me. So they're clear, and they've been clear from very early. Daddy is not perfect. Daddy got flaws. These are things that Daddy does well. These are things that Daddy understands. And I have lived to see my daughters challenge me on things and reject my advice, reject my opinion, and then come back later on and say, Daddy, we no get it. I now see what you were saying. And that's really what I wanted. And sometimes I wondered if I had done the right thing, because they go there, you leave, you part ways, and they are going in a totally different direction. And I'm talking about young children now, I'm talking about 8, 9, 10. They're having their own opinions and say, nah, Dad, they don't agree with you. Right?
And that's allowed.
And that is allowed. And it's scary, because I'm like, will they ever come around?
But you know, we live in a culture where that is not the normal. When a child challenges the adult, you get to shut up, because a lot of these adults feel intimidated. They feel as if, no man, the child should not go put me in this position to feel uncomfortable. And that's where a lot of people just take out the hand and shut the hand in the children and beat children and think, you know, shut up in here.
I took my daughter to bed, right? And I would lie down in the bed with her till she goes to sleep. We will have discussions. She was about 6, 7 years old.
I was about that sport years group, yes.
6, 7 years old. And we were having a discussion. And she, a back and forth. And she hit me with something and made me think. And I paused to think. And you know what she said to me? You can't say nothing. I said, no, I'm right. Because she hit me with something that I really didn't have an answer for. And we've been doing that from the beginning.
You girls so a lot of confidence. Like, you know?
See, but that confidence comes from how you interact with them. If you interact with them in ways that value, create a sense of value, a sense of belonging, a sense that they're cared for, then that is confidence springs from that environment. Confidence doesn't just happen again by chance. So you have to engage your children, your girls especially, in a way that gets them to value their own, come to a sense of their own self-worth. As we would say, be comfortable in their own skin. One of the things I've had to realize early is that they have minds of their own.
From the beginning.
Yes, my job is to shine the light, and that's twofold: by sharing, you know, this is my experience, but more importantly, by being the example. You know, my last daughter came by this evening, and I said to her, I'm doing a podcast, doing a recording this evening, and the question is the father-daughter, the daughter relationship, you know, the importance. So, you know, you're my guinea pig. What's your answer? And she fumbled, she fumbled around with it. But eventually one of the things she said is, you know, one of the things that I'm taking away from our relationship is what to look for in a man.
That's the point I was speaking to earlier.
And I said, wow. She's 25. She's 25. I felt good about that. That she can reason, if I'm looking for someone that I'm going to have a relationship with, the qualities that I see in you are the qualities I would be looking for.
But you know,
touch my heart.
Yeah, man. That is great. But we have, I mean, if we're really honest about what we see in society generally, you see all those qualities you spoke about, you know, making your daughters feel a sense of belonging and love. We got a lot of men out there that don't even know what I feel like, even for themselves.
And that's part of the challenge. That's part of the challenge. Children can only live what they've learned. We as adults can only live what we've learned. Yeah? And so we've got to get to a place as men where we accept that has been our experience, whatever that experience has been. But what is the experience I want to create so that my children, my girls, grow up in ways that allow them to be, the term we're using is confident. To allow them to function effectively in the world that they're going to be engaging. So if you can separate the past from the future and come to realize you can't change your past. You can't undo how your parents raised you, how they maltreated you. You can't undo any of those things, but you can shape the future. And if you can get to that place in your life where you decide what you want the rest of your life to be about and how you want to influence the generation that is behind you, half the job is finished. Then the challenge then is just to live it as best as you can.
You know, I really love this, and what I'm seeing in society today, got me kind of concerned for young people, especially girls. What we seeing on social media, what we seeing in society. You know, this whole idea where we push sex at everything, and I feel as if our morals are degrading and our values, you know, and how important it is, you know, for a father really to instill the necessary values. I know sometimes there's easy away from it, and that's what we're seeing now. But in many instances, I say easy away, but you can only ease away from something if it was there. But in many instances, we raising in environments where there are values.
There are values.
There are values,
but they're not values that are going to allow us to be effective in our lives, either by ourselves or in the context of our relationships. But we all have values. Right? We make decisions based upon our value system. We currently have a value system that's predominantly physical. So it is about sex, it's about the jewelry, and the fellas wearing the big chains and they carry you drive, and there's not a sufficient awareness of living in ways that reflect that there's more to life than the physical.
You made a comment when we were talking before we started about nature always seeking balance.
Nature's always seeking balance, yes.
And I really, really believe that. And I think that with the pace and the rapidity and the drastic nature of the changes from year to year, generation to generation, the pendulum don't swing slow anymore. The pendulum is be rocking like red plastic bag song, you know? And so that balance that is to be found, each generation, each individual has to find that balance in the age that they're living in. And I think this is what makes parenting or fathering so difficult today. And for, as you said, for young women, we've come out of previous eras where women have been on lockdown into an era where women are on like full hyper display. And it is trying to find that balance as you move through this generation. Balance between freedom and responsibility, between self-expression and self-regulation.
Yes.
And I think the best thing we can do for our children, whether they be boys or girls, but as you said, especially girls, because the society tends to prey on females, is for them to understand how to walk that line and walk that balance between expression and regulation.
And so here's how I have processed, how I help people to understand how you find that place of balance. The most, should be talking about values. There are values. So values are things I ascribe onto myself. Higher than values are principles. Yeah? And the most fundamental law in the universe is the law of the harvest. The law of the harvest says that you can only reap what you sow. So yes, seasons will change, and change will happen at a very rapid rate. But at the end of the day, I am responsible for the choices that I make.
And the seeds that you sow in your children.
Precisely. Precisely. And so if I know what it is that I want, I will then only make choices, make decisions, engage in behaviors, do things, small things, big things, large things, that are in concert with the end state that I want.
I am a big believer in a principle focus approach.
Precisely.
Because principles by definition shouldn't change.
They do not change. The law of the harvest, the law of gravity still exists.
Right. So the difficulty comes now when people mistake strategies, tactics, techniques, standards
Yes, sir.
for principles.
For principles, yes. Yes.
Because yes, you will only reap what you sow.
So,
but
full stop.
you got to find the right season. You got to find the appropriate soil.
Yes.
You got to make sure the nurturing is correct.
And you have to be prepared to put in the work.
Put in the work.
But that is it. The work.
Yes.
Put it in the work. Because, as men, you mentioned earlier that you was the provider.
Yes.
I still is, we equate being a provider to being busy. Being busy oftentimes means being absent or limited time. How do we then, make that time for our daughters that we can build the relationship, that is necessary?
A lot of that time is about building connections. So, one of my daughters, remember I said to you in my first marriage, I had 2 daughters, and then I had one daughter outside of that relationship. And I wasn't significantly involved in her life until she was about 16. And one of the things I had to do when she was 16 was to apologize to her.
You spoke about that before.
Yes, I had to apologize to her. Yeah, and say, I was selfish. It was about protecting my own image and that kind of stuff. But today, we have a wonderful, wonderful relationship. So when I talk about putting in the work, I'm not talking theory. I had to go to work on building up that relationship with her. She lives in London. She's there on holiday. Yeah, and we have I have as close a relationship with her as I have with any of my other daughters. And the wonderful thing about it is that they all have a very close, intimate relationship. If you look at my profile picture on my phone, it's a picture of myself, my 5 daughters, and my one son.
Beautiful.
And they relate to each other as though they are children from the same mother and same father. But I had to put in the work. It didn't just happen by chance.
Yeah.
Good. What are some of the critical conversations a father should have with his daughter?
That's a tough one. What are some of the critical conversations that a father? For me, the conversations are led largely by my daughter.
Yeah.
She will bring issues to me. She will bring concerns to me. Things happen at school, she will come and tell me about them. And then I respond accordingly.
Okay.
Right? She lives in a different age than I lived in. Some of the things that she is facing are things that I didn't have to face, or at least not at the age that she got to face them at.
Yeah, boy.
Some of the things little fellas would try. I'm like, wow, these fellas, man, ahead of the game.
Yeah.
And not a good way neither, So
technology, man.
So I think what Toney said earlier is key. And the fact that you can start that at 16 and see it bear the fruit that is born speaks to the importance of building a connection.
Is what building connections.
Building that connection. So I have not pre-thought out things to tell my daughter or things to discuss. We have a connection and we converse, we talk, we relate on a regular basis, naturally. See that drive to school?
Yeah, boy, the car.
See the car? Yeah, man.
Yeah. Tell you what you think?
I have learned to do less telling and to ask questions. So, such and such a thing happened. And what were you thinking? What went on in your mind? What happened? I find that to be a very powerful way of building connections.
Yeah.
I find when you tell, especially when you tell what you would have done or what you did, But if you can pull back, resist telling,
And listen.
yes, that's interesting. Tell me more. What were you thinking? Yeah, was it you were working on? Where would you want it to go? If you had to do it again, if that situation came again, no, you've had this experience. How do you think you would handle it? Yeah, and even when you offer advice, you offer it like you serve a buffet.
Yeah.
So they come to the table and decide we want this, we want a piece of this and a piece of that.
Well, if you bite this,
it
ain't gonna taste so good with this, but if you bite this,
the advice that wisdom.
So I find that works, where you let them, you put it before them, but you get to choose.
If I were forced to answer that question more specifically, I would say that social media discussion is an important discussion. The use of social media and the understanding of the power of the use and the abuse of social media. I think that's an important one to have.
Part of that solution goes back to the comment they made earlier. Part of the challenge our young people, again our girls are having, is that they don't have a lens through which, an effective lens, through which to take in all that they're seeing, all that they're hearing. Yes?
Information overload almost.
Yes. Well, yeah, information overload. There's too much of it. But if you have a filter, so if we can help our kids, if we can help our children to grow up with that very strong sense of self, that very strong sense of values, you will see stuff and you know what, that's not for me. You wouldn't even pray. You wouldn't even go into it because something already tells you that is not for me. But again, you don't get there overnight. Right? That requires years of consistent planting seeds. That helps them to understand how life works.
Help them in the decision-making process.
Yes. And again, not by telling, but by asking questions. Right? Showing them that life is about choices, life is about having options, and that you're responsible for your choices. But again, more powerful than telling is, do you live your life in that way? Because what you are teaching, whatever your approach, or how you're living it, have to be consistent.
But listen, go ahead, Adrian.
I want to tap back to that filter, because filter is big on social media, and it's been shown that social media affects girls more than it affects boys,
body
and in more negative ways.
Yes, body shaming is a big thing.
So girls are paying attention to social media and not having that value system, that framework, that filter that you talk about to really assess the things that are targeted at them. And it can play with their minds and it does play with their mind. I say it can because it is possible, I believe, for a young woman, a girl, to be in it and not have the negative effects that we see it having on so many.
We got a lot of fathers out there that gain a daughter's great because of the whatless of the youth, and they project that on. So it's like a lot of men, they run about the place,
become overprotective.
Yes, and don't want to let go of the daughters to free up and understand life and understand the world, because they believe that every man she come across can be like them. Can be like them. How do we deal with other fathers?
Whoa.
And these are the unspoken things that we gonna face. How do we deal with that?
So first off, let me be quite frank. I think you should assume that every man that your daughter comes across is like that. However, how you manage that, how you deal with that now, your emotional intelligence, your ability to regulate your own attitude. Because what's happened is that if you don't have that emotional intelligence, and you feel that every man, every male that your daughter meets is like that, then you can start to panic. You can start to overreact. You can start to do a lot of telling and a lot of pulling. And shoving and trying to control, and then you can get backlash, some sort of backlash.
I've never thought about that question before. I really never thought before, but what occurs to me is that as a first response is to own it. Yes, I'm having this conversation with you because I've been there, and I'm really dangerous. So there has to be a certain level of vulnerability. No, we don't go there easily as men.
It's true.
We don't go easily as men.
It is true.
But again, if you understand the law of the harvest, we can only reap what you sow, then I equate that to the tilling of the soil. You got to till the soil before you can plant the seed. So that tilling of the soil is about saying, raise your hand, I have to be honest with you. I'm really concerned because when I look at myself, and it goes back to the point I made earlier. Yes, I have a past. But how am I functioning in the future? In the present, sorry. How am I functioning in the present? If I can do that, and I'm using my past now as wisdom, hey, you break free. But if you're living in the past from a place of guilt and regret and shame, you can't be effective in your role as a father. Just can't be. So you got to own it. That was me. This is me now.
Oftentimes it's not guilt or regret or shame either though. We live in a world where the value system says I can do to other people what I want, but they can't do to me. And it ain't no shame in that. It ain't no guilt. That's just how it is. My way or the highway.
Yeah, the law of the harvest is still at work. Right? You can only get back based on what you put out. So you got to be careful.
So that father Fabian talking about either on some level understands the law of the harvest. He know he know what he's sold.
Yes.
Yeah. But this is so much, there's so much information out there, and as we really bring this to a close, I really want to thank you guys for sharing in a real meaningful way, and I really hope that fathers tune in and was able to take away from the wisdom that both of you guys brought to this set. Fathers need a lot of support. They need a lot of support. Traditionally, there has not been a lot of support for men out there, and men don't know where to turn. And I really hope that as we continue on this path of these podcasts, that men really take out and absorb it into their well-being and really build relationships, in this instance with their daughters, because daughters need it now more than ever, because the environment, this environment
hostile
is crazy, man. It's really crazy. So Adrian, thank you.
My pleasure.
Definitely.
Man. Thank you.
Toney, thank you very much.
Anytime.
And thank you as well for tuning in to this podcast, Men Levy Reason. You can find us on all social media platforms. Go, like, share, make your comments, and we will feedback for sure. So until next episode, Men Levy Reason.